Welcome down to my 9-foot homemade oak bar. Pour yourself a cold one. You are listening to Bucs in the Basement. My name's Chris, and Craig here is the biggest Pirates fan you'll ever meet. Let's talk Pirates baseball now. Welcome to Bucs in the Basement.
Now I see the changes in this town. They change, they say one thing, but then the next day it's different. They change, but they don't know what they want. All they do is change. Going left, going right, travel day, travel night. That's where we'll go. No excuses, no goodbyes, no one cries, no one lies. We'll never know.
All right, guys, back down here at the 9-foot homemade oak bar. The Pirates are making some moves, and we're still awaiting some moves. Thought it would be a great time during the offseason. One of the busiest men in baseball here, because there is really no downtime for Mr. Roster Resource, Jason Martinez, at Jason R.R. Martinez on Twitter. Been on the show quite a few times. I don't even know what number we're at right now, but Jason, glad you are back here in the basement.
Thanks for having me, Craig. It's always fun to talk any baseball, but I like talking about underdogs like the Pirates. Although it's frustrating for fans, but I've been there. I'm a Padres fan different times now, but I think this is the thing that kind of. I actually started looking forward to these types of off seasons where you go like, you're not shopping for the for the expensive stuff, but how are we going to improve our team marginally? Is like it's always how are we going to improve our team, right? Because it always ends bad, and then you go, okay, we got these young guys. This guy might be good next year. This guy might be good. Maybe there's going to be a guy we claim off waivers, and that guy might turn out to be good. And, of course, once it's been going on for a long time, you stop being as positive, but as optimistic. But I try to stay there. I try not to be too pessimistic about any team.
Yeah, it's hard not to be, especially as a Pirates fan here, not to be a little bit pessimistic after, 2 100-loss seasons, the shortened 2020 season, which would have it's guaranteed to be, a third 100-loss season. I mean, 19-41, that's not a great record. I don't have to tell anybody that. But, I mean, the Pirates have been kind of busy so far this offseason. The one thing I definitely wanted to talk to you about, because I haven't gotten a lot of word on this, and you may not have either, but the Pirates, agreed to a 1-year contract with Harleen Garcia back on 12/6, and of course, all these things are always, pending a physical, but haven't gotten that contract signed yet.
Yeah, these off-season ones can, they can be signed, they can be official as they're being announced, and then for whatever reason, it could take a while, and sometimes I'm guessing the teams they're taking their time, just trying to come up with who's going to be that 40-man move. Because, in the Pirates' case, they have more than 40 right now, if you include everybody that's signed. And so, yeah, there's some pending moves. There maybe nothing obvious at this point. I could probably pick out maybe 1 or 2 relievers that you can go, okay, well, that guy might, there's a 40-man casualty right there. That guy's going to get DFA'd. But, yeah, sometimes it takes a while. And it's hard to at this early on in the off season, you can't push it back far enough to where you can put a guy on the 60-day IL. Where in the Pirates' case, they can eventually Max Tranix is going to go on the 60-day IL, but you have to wait till the official start of spring training, which is like mid-February. So they're not going to try to push something back that far. So yeah, I mean, just looking at the roster crunch right now, there's not one obvious guy where you go, yeah, that guy can be DFA'd right now to make room for these new signings.
Yeah, and it's just definitely a weird thing because, I mean, they even will have possibly, one other space that they're going to have to to open up at some point, signing Tyler Heineman to that minor league deal. Right now, I mean, especially after, Derek Shelton shutting the door on any hope of Andy Rodriguez and saying, nope, he's starting in the minors. So it's like, okay, we can move him down to there on the roster resource thing, but going to have to make a space for Tyler Heineman as well. Connor Joe picked up, so Nick Mears becomes a casualty there. But I mean, a lot of times, especially a 101 loss team, you would think, okay, there's a lot of fat to trim off. But with like the additions of Choi and Santana, like both of them for possibly like one position, Miguel Andujar, and then now you have Connor Joe, Austin Hedges, like you've added so many of these other guys, Vince Velasquez, Harleen Garcia. You're kind of running out of guys to cut.
Yeah, the Rule 5 pick Jose Hernandez as well, who, you figure this is the type of team that is going to give that guy every chance to make the team. Especially in the bullpen, you don't have a lot of flexibility. If you're going to keep the Rule 5 guy, you basically just playing with one spot there in that bullpen with guys you can go up and down with. You're looking at a guy like Bryce Wilson, who's out of options, and you want to give, I don't think he's going to be a DFA candidate this early. I think I could see him, going to spring training, and if he doesn't show that he's ready to take a step forward, maybe he becomes a DFA candidate then. But at that point, it's easier to put somebody on the 60-day IL and clear up spots that way. But yeah, they don't have. There's some flexibility with the position players, and I think if they're not going to add any more certainty to that lineup, at least you have a lot of different options of guys who could possibly be better next year, and so it's not a lot of certainty with guys like Sawinski and Cal Mitchell, and then you go down the list as far as guys who are going to get a look, and Diego Castillo and Andujar, and further down with you can finally give Travis Swaggerty a chance. Kanan Smith Najigba was hurt last year; he was about to get that chance. Tucupita Marcano, is he ever going to get a look? So you have a lot of options. So as far as you go to spring training with a bunch of these guys, you just need one or two guys to stand out and say, okay, this is good. We got we're not counting on just one guy with not a lot of with not much of a track record. However, there's going to be probably some intriguing options that are veteran guys who are bounce back candidates who can give you some values and trade value at June and July. If you give them a couple months and you hold off on a guy like whether it's Cal Mitchell or any one of these guys, I think I can look at this roster and say, okay, I see some interesting moves I can make here, but yeah, there's not as much flexibility as you would want. I think the Brian Reynolds trade is going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen soon now that it's out in the news and that he's demanding the trade, which would make the Pirates look weak if they actually went ahead and traded him anytime soon. I think they're going to wait probably closer to spring training, but I think there's enough teams with the talent to pull off a trade. I think the Dodgers, the Yankees, and a few other teams are really good fits for Brian Reynolds, and they can really put together a good trade package.
You're breaking this man's heart over here, Jason, but I definitely do understand that. And for me, the longer that they keep a Swaggerty and Njigba, Tucupita Marcano, especially, Ryan Valade. I honestly, I feel bad that I haven't looked up how to pronounce his name yet because I honestly thought that he would be gone. And you keep on adding to this outfield depth. We have, it seems like 15 people that could play outfield on the 40-man right now.
Yeah, like I said, it's not a lot of certainty there. But, okay, so you have a bunch of options. You just, so can one of those guys make it obvious in spring training that, okay, I'm the guy who's stepping up here and I deserve a chance. That's tough because it's a long season as well. And that's the thing, the thing that costs money as well, to add certainty. You add these guys that have done it. They've done it before. So if you look at the free agent market and you go, yeah, there's a bunch of outfielders who you kind of know what you're getting, and it wouldn't cost a whole lot. You got guys like, David Peralta, Adam Duvall, guys like that are probably, they probably want to sign with a better team. But it comes down to it, you go, these guys, I can get somebody like this for $3 million, and I kind of know what I'm getting, and maybe they have a good, solid 2-month run, and then we'll trade them if it doesn't seem like we're going to compete. So I think you have those options as well. So when I look at this roster, I think what the Orioles did last year is probably gives, I don't know if it's a false hope, but I think it does give some of these teams at least something to look at and say, look, a lot went right, but these are the things we had in place to be able to have a really good season, and that's in a much better division than AL Central, AL Central, divisions like that, where I think, these are very similar divisions, the Centrals, and that they're all the teams kind of looking at each other and going like, okay, well, nobody's really going to run away with this. So as long as that happens, we have a chance. We don't have to do too much. Let's get better marginally, and hope that a lot goes right. Hope that some of our young guys step up. And then, the Orioles have, I think to have somebody like Adley Rutschman as part of that is it's a big part of why they're so good a lot quicker. And they have a couple other younger players who are going to have that kind of impact. Grayson Rodriguez and Gunnar Henderson and a few others. So the Pirates don't necessarily have that, but they do have a lot of good young arms that are going to get a look. So it's just a matter of how quickly. Are you going to start getting guys like, Luis Ortiz and Mike Burrows, Quinn Priester, Kyle Nicholas, and so on. You have a bunch of guys who are getting closer. Who, if you have 8 options who aren't even on your opening day roster, who are good enough to make the majors in 2023, you figure 1 or 2 of those guys is going to step up and be a lot better than expected, a lot quicker. Is that, can you do that before you totally just fall apart and you're like 20 games out of a playoff spot before you start giving these guys a look? I mean, it's timing is everything, luck is everything. How healthy you're going to be, and I think that the bullpen is going to play a big part as well. You look what the Orioles did. I mean, you can't be that good without having a bullpen that's just like just locked down. After the sixth inning, and so. I hope most teams at least have the potential of doing that, just looking at their arms, because you never know. It's like, is this guy going to figure it out this year, or this one starting pitching prospect who isn't quite putting it together? Can we move him to the bullpen, and all of a sudden he's a shutdown 8th inning guy? I think there's some potential there as well in that bullpen, and with Lorenzo Contreras. You could take another step forward in that rotation. Same with Mitch Keller. Brubaker is a solid back of the rotation guy. And then you mix in some of those younger guys mentioned earlier. If only 2 or 3 of those guys step up, you're going to get some quality innings and stay in the ball game. And in that division, you don't have to win 90 games. You can just maybe you win 85 games, and then you got a chance there, and you're going to make things interesting.
If you ever see me out and about in Pittsburgh, you will always recognize me, and not just because of the white beard, but also because of the Y that is always on top of my head, the hat I always wear. The Yins brand, proud partners with Bucs in the Basement. 3 dynasties, 1 brand, Yins. Finally, 1 brand to rep all black and gold. Follow @ShopYins for new merch drops and giveaways. Order online at www.shopyins, the emphasis on the 2 Z's, high quality comfort lightweight materials, a new modern look for the black and gold, made for Yins by a Yinzer. Well, I kind of want to stick with the pitching aspect because, I mean, we definitely do have a lot of arms, a lot of options, a lot of guys that are really close, you know, some that have, even like with Luis Ortiz making his appearance, you know, getting Johan Oviedo in the Quintana deal and everything. But, I mean, you study every single team. Man, is there any other team out there that doesn't have a left-handed starter that you can think of offhand?
Let me think here. Not offhand. I mean, it's pretty. You know, most rotations are pretty balanced as far as like, you know, at least let's get the one lefty in there, and bullpens as well. Well, you look at a team like the Astros are a little bit different, and you kind of go, well, I guess you don't. You know, they did have a lefty most of the time, but by the time they got to the postseason, it's like we got 5 guys who can get anybody out. So yeah, I don't know. I think teams try to balance it out a little bit, but I think it's more from the bullpen standpoint as well. Like, because you know, you're more focused on getting 5 innings from your starter. If you're lucky, it's 6 or 7 innings, and then you're just like, okay, well, we got 5 different options out of the bullpen, and whether they're right-handed or left-handed, we're going to give you a different look every inning now. Every three or 4 batters, you're going to get a different look, and that could be a right-hander that throws only sliders, and then you come with a left-hander who throws from the side. You got, you know, so as far as left-handed options, yeah, the Pirates don't really have. If you just go down the depth chart here, I mean, you got to go all the way down to Anthony Solometo, who's their second-round pick of 21, who I have projected to pitch in high A. And there isn't any other left-handers until you get down to you know, there's a few more in low A. But yeah, this is, you know, so yeah, maybe you want to look at the free agent market and add a left-handed starter to the mix. And I'm sure there's some interesting ones there. Let's see, I'm going to take a quick look. Maybe, you know, well, Wade Miley. Does Wade Miley interest you? Dallas Keuchel, Mike Minor, Danny Duffy. Danny Duffy, hey, Danny Duffy bounced back from injury. So yeah, there's not a lot of options there, I guess.
Yeah, they've kind of been going by the wayside. I had been projecting, and not because everybody thought it was because I wanted him. I just thought that Ryan Yarbrough kind of fit into maybe a mold of what, you know, Ben Cherington was looking for, but, you know, and he didn't even sign for that much, because I've been looking across the board and seeing that, you know, it felt like some of the contracts are inflated, and I'm not even talking just about, you know, the long-term deals for the big-name players, but even, you know, seeing like an Adam Frazier getting $8 million from the Orioles. Who was it? Mike Lorenzen getting like 8.5 from the Tigers. Kyle Gibson, $10 million from the Orioles. Matthew Boyd, $10 million from the Tigers as well. And just seeing those inflated numbers, and then seeing a guy that goes for like $3 million, which is kind of like right in the Pirates' range. That's, you know, right where they signed Vince Velasquez for. That's what I was looking more towards. But yeah, the amount of options. So I think at some point they might just say, you know what, we've got a lot of guys, and we'd rather just have these guys than, you know, having to toss a lefty in there. So I'm not really sure. I just kind of wanted your take on it because it just seems like it seems so weird to not have a lefty in the rotation and not be discussing, you know, this soft tossing, you know, mechanical, you know, lefty. It's just weird to me. And right now you have Harley Garcia, who's not signed, who is signed, but, you know, hasn't been made. And then Jose Hernandez. I mean, those are your 2 left-handed options. And other than that, like you said, you have to go so deep, and it's just weird that it kind of fell this way.
Yeah, like I said, you know, you can go bounce back candidate in Danny Duffy, and I think somebody like Wade Miley is you know, he's not. I guess he's kind of old, 36. I don't know how a lot of these pitchers, maybe it won't affect the Pirates because there's, you know, so many young guys, but so many pitchers are going to have to adjust to this to the pitch clock. And Wade Miley's probably the fastest worker out there. I'm thinking like, hey, he'd be, he needs to sign with some team that has, like I know the Padres, the entire rotation is so slow. And so this guy needs to go in there and show him how to work quickly. But yeah, there's, I think, if anything, there's somebody like that. And like you said, even the guys who you knew were going to be cheaper are getting, more than expected. Austin Hedges, I didn't expect to get $5 million. And once they DFA'd him in Cleveland, I figured, all right, this guy is clearly he's a backup. He's a guy that's going to bounce around the rest of his career, and he's always going to be that Drew Butera, Jeff Mathis kind of guy, and he's going to get his $1 million deal every year. And he got $5 million from the Pirates. That's more than I thought. And I think for a lot of these teams, you kind of get it in your mind like, okay, I kind of have an idea of what it's going to cost, and then you go there and you go, wow, that's way more than I thought. You kind of have to take a step back and revalue everything, and so the Pirates don't have a lot in their payroll. They definitely don't have a lot in future payroll, and I don't know how high they're willing to go, but they're a little bit higher than they were last year. Man, if is part of it is, is it worth it, or should we just make sure that we give all these young guys a chance, or can we add some more veteran guys to help at least for the first couple months of the season? And can they add more value than just like with Hedges, it's more value than just what can he do on the field? That guy's going to, when you have a really good catching prospect in Endy Rodriguez, he should be very helpful. I mean, just you put a blindfold on Endy Rodriguez when Austin Hedges is at bat, and you say, don't watch this guy when he's batting, but everything else, watch how this guy goes about his business and how he deals with pitching staff, because he's like another coach out there. And so, you give Rodriguez another month or two, whatever it is in AAA, and then you bring him up and you say, all right, you're working with this guy who's one of the best defensive catchers in baseball, who has a ton of experience working with all kinds of different pitchers and really good pitching staff. So I think that's a good move. So if you're looking at that starting rotation, is there a guy like that who you can throw in there and say, this guy's going to have a ton of influence. We're going to give him some innings until, one of the young guys steps up and pushes him out.
Yeah, and you said with the Hedges thing, man, when I saw $5 million, it was almost like there must have been some sort of miscommunication that they walked into it and they said, well, we have $5 million allotted for this position. And so the person just said, okay, $5 million. Because it was just like, I really didn't see that. And it's like I said, it's no offense to Austin Hedges. I mean, it's been put out there, the most defensive runs saved by a catcher since 2015. His framing is elite. Got a good arm, and he just works well with pitching staffs. I mean, we can't, at one point, praise the Indians for like how well their pitching staff did, and having him, kind of in their lineup for that many games, and then, kind of badmouth Hedges to a degree. I just can't see that. But yeah, $5 million to me. But like you said, it's just more of, I actually see it as if you would have signed, Tucker Barnhart, if you would have maybe brought Roberto Perez back, you'd have to worry about like the injury and stuff like that. Hedges he just always plays, and it kind of gives me some of that hope that, I know that we're not going to see Endy at the beginning of the season, but that maybe we'll see him sooner rather than later, because you don't have an answer unless you're going to go out and get another like 1 year deal next year, but that's just kicking the can down the road again. So I'm hopeful, and I'm hoping that that's exactly what happens. But yeah, it was weird for that big of a signing. The Pirates have filled every single hole that I told them that they should fill at the beginning of the offseason. The catching, first base, an outfielder, and a starting pitcher, and a little bit in the rotation. They've just gone about it a different way than I thought they would, to a certain degree.
Yeah, and yeah, there wasn't that big splash, and I think that's, I don't know if anybody would expect that from the Pirates. I guess you can look at that payroll and go like, okay, there's room to do something big, but I think it's harder to convince a player at this point, especially, an established big leaguer, like, all right, come to Pittsburgh. I mean, if they sign with Pittsburgh, it's because Pittsburgh offer more than the other teams, which doesn't seem like it's going to happen in most cases, or it's like, well, you don't have a lot of opportunities. And, there's still guys out there that you can look at and say, okay, I'll use the bullpen as an example, like somebody like Craig Kimbrell or Aroldis Chapman. Like those guys, maybe they still want to close. Like you still want to, you're not going to go get a closing job anywhere else. But here we can offer you a chance to close, where at least we're going to give you a better chance to close than other teams, so you can sign those guys for cheap. I'm not sure. I'm using those two as an example, but it's more opportunity at this point going to Pittsburgh. And Austin Hedges wasn't going to get a starting job anywhere, which is also why not sure why they had to pay him $5 million. I mean, there might be one or two other teams that could have given him a decent opportunity for playing time, but it was mostly. I imagine he could have gotten a lot of backup jobs, but $5 million as a backup isn't going to happen. I think Carlos Santana looking to bounce back from a bad season. He's getting older, so he did sign early, which is a good sign that he wanted to he wanted to go there. Vince Velasquez, again, he's the guy who is great stuff, but not a lot of certainty there with as far as if you're a contending team. This the guy you want to give starts to. Where is he going to fit? If he's not like a swingman, long reliever, don't really trust that guy. But on the Pirates, you just say, all right, we're going to put you in the rotation, let it rip. We're going to give you the ball every 5 or 6 days, and maybe that results in 2 really good months, and then a bunch of these contending teams are calling you, offering a prospect for them.
Yeah, and for me, I mean, that's just kind of why, and they've filled each position, the same as last year with, Hedges instead of Perez, Choi and Santana instead of Vogelbach and Yoshi. There's been, those different types of moves, and it just kind of seems like a lot of this is gonna depend on the young guys taking a step forward, because I mean, even if these guys all have great seasons, I mean, Daniel Vogelbach was having a fairly decent season for the Pirates, and it didn't create that many more wins. It's going to have to come from, the young pitchers that you were mentioning before, and hopefully, at least one of the plethora of outfielders, kind of taking a step forward this year. I mean, Jack Swinski sticks out in my mind right now. It has again. I mean, because the power was there. It's just a lot of the other stuff, and the defense was there. But yeah, I mean, it's going to take a lot. And then the uncertainty with Brian Reynolds. I mean, we're either going to be, the next time we talk, Jason, we're going to be talking. You might be either like, talking me down and off the hype train of the Pirates, or talking me off a ledge. I don't know if there's going to be too much of an in between.
Right. I think it's still going to be a fun team as long as O'Neal Cruz is there too. I think you got that to look forward to, which is like, talk about uncertainty, but I think the thing that you can pencil in, like, this is a 30-30 guy, as long as he's playing every day. And I always make the point with toolsy guys like this. And I'll use like Jorge Mateo is an example, who's a guy who has, I don't know if he was ever 5 tools, but he's the guy with plus speed, some power, good defensive skills, and he just was too raw, but you go, okay, well, what happens if you play him every day? And you kind of see the result. He's kind of, a guy will hit 15 homers and steal 30 plus bases if you just put him out there every day. And he ended up being really good as a shortstop. But then you look at his numbers and you go, man, 260 on base percentage. I don't think that's gonna, And so with O'Neal Cruz, at least you got, maybe he's gonna hit 220 with a 280 on base percentage, but you're still gonna get 30-30. So I think that, and you're gonna get, if you just looking at it as a marketing from a marketing standpoint, this guy is so much fun to watch. He's going to do incredible things out on the field. And this is what is going to get Pirates fans to watch. They could ignore the sub 300 on base percentage as long as he's doing a couple amazing things every homestand, which is just what I'd expect. So if he is good enough to stay on the field and not, because I think what happens with a lot of these guys, they get in a rut and they can't get out of it. And with Cruz, it might, if he goes into a 3 for 20 slump, where 2 of those are going to be 400-foot home runs that left the ballpark at 115 miles per hour. And then, he made a couple amazing plays at shortstop, and you go, I guess that's worth it. We can, it's not great when your team, when you have a bad roster, if you can hide that guy at the bottom of the order, that's better. But you still have that guy to look forward to. And I think, with Reynolds, he's that one guy that you kind of know, what we're going to get here. So I just don't know how you hold on to that guy after he said, I don't want to be here anymore. I think, maybe he kept it quiet at first and asked for a trade. And then at that point, if it doesn't happen, he's going to put it out in the media. Like I'm demanding the trade. And so I do think there's a couple good deals to be made for Reynolds where the Pirates really have to consider it. And I think it's going to, just based on a lot of really good teams not having enough good options in the outfield right now. I think the Pirates could take advantage of it. But yeah, I also could see them looking at their division and thinking like, yeah, it's actually, we're not that far off from being able to compete, because if enough good things go right, we'll be right there. And I think I think that's fine. I think it's realistic enough to say like, we can go into spring training and expecting to compete in this division. We're not going to be a 90-win team probably, but let's at least hang with the rest of these teams in the division. I don't think the Cardinals are going to run away with it. The Brewers don't seem like they're going to run away with it. So I'm trying to be optimistic here. But like if the Orioles can do what they did last year, a team like the Pirates can do it as well.
Yeah, and it's definitely, no matter what, I'm going to be sitting here watching it, myself and Chris, and we're going to still be putting out episodes. So, no matter what happens, but, at least ending on somewhat of an optimistic high note of, getting to see O'Neal Cruz play hopefully every day this year, which will be nice instead of, waiting for him to come up like we did last year. But Jason, you know what, man? It's been a great talk again. Love having you on the show. For people that don't, I have it pulled up all the time. I have, the roster resource. I have the depth chart pulled up for the Pirates. It's not just that. There's just so much more information out there. Anybody who doesn't, go follow Jason. He's a plethora of information, not only on the Pirates, but all around the moves around all around Major League Baseball. Jason, can't wait to do this again, brother, and thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me on, Greg. Anytime.
Now I see the changes in this town. They change, they say